watching the news on the hour brought to you from the Anglican Cable Network Nigeria, ACNN. I am Zubechi Frank. You are welcome. All eligible citizens of Nigeria have been urged to get ready to vote in the general election in 2019 because their votes will count. They were also encouraged to strive for elective positions apart from voting. This was the assertion of the Primate of all Nigeria Anglican Communion, His Grace, the Most Reverend Nicholas D. Oko, during his address to the just concluded standing committee meeting held at St. Peter's Cathedral Church, Diocese of Minna in Niger State. The Primate also called on INEC to remain an unbiased umpire and not to disenfranchise anybody at the general pool.
Of democracy, the Standing Committee wishes to urge INEC to work harder to make all the processes and eventual elections as smooth as possible, and to remain an unbiased umpire in this race to determine Nigeria's destiny. Whatever will disenfranchise any Nigerian should not come from INEC and should be avoided by all. We urge all eligible citizens to get ready to vote in the general elections. Your vote is your power, and your vote will count. We call on the armed forces and all other security agencies to conduct the affairs of the 2019 general elections with the future of Nigeria in mind. Finally, we call on our people not only to ensure that they vote, but to also strive for elective positions to be voted for.
Primate Oko also called on the federal government to make every effort to make sure that Leah Sharibu and other Chibok girls are released by the Boko Haram.
The vote will count. We call on the armed forces and all other security agencies to conduct the affairs of the 2019 general elections with the future of Nigeria in mind. Finally, we call on our people not only to ensure that they vote, but to also strive for elective positions to be voted for. Not too young to run bill. The Not Too Young to Run bill was heralded with so much zest. We recognize the step as a good development at a time like this. However, as good as it may be, it is not going to solve any problems automatically. The Nigerian brand of politics has, over the years, not been on ideas and ideals. Rather, it has been driven by personality and money. Ethnic and religious biases have also played roles. With the Not Too Young to Run bill passed, we call on the young people not to be discouraged, but join in the struggle and look forward to the future with hope.
Other clerics also spoke on the theme of the meeting, God our refuge and strength.
There's no alternative to God's refuge, our present help in time of trouble. And there's no doubt that right now we're in trouble, just like children of Israel. And once we're in trouble, who do you run to? So the name of the Lord is a strong tower. The righteous went to it and is saved. I think right now, every power has failed. Every refuge has failed. And the only solution now is God himself. And it's only when we ourselves have that trust in God and believe that God is greater than our problems, and believe that he's able to, and abundantly able to deliver those who trust in him, then we can now be able to say God's our refuge.
The joy we have as Christians is that however discouraging things are, we have a place to turn to. So what this does is that it lifts our attention and focus from the solution that human beings have proffered, because we have seen that they have failed, and to say we have a God who still cares and who is able to do something.
If you look at our country today, and you look at the church today, you will see that all around we are troubled. And in the midst of uncertainty and trouble, a true believer, a true child of God, will run into God. God is our refuge. We will not go to start consulting babalawos or to start consulting magicians. But this is a time to know, to recognize the fact that we are created in God's own image. We are his imago Dei. And he has given us the power. And as his own children, we continue to maintain our strong relationship with him. In other words, he is a God who does not abandon his own, especially in the time of need.
For us as a church and for us as a country, to reassure us of the refuge and the strength that we have in our God. A God who does not sleep, who does not slumber, a God that is highly dependable, that cannot fall, that cannot fail, that cannot falter. He's also our very present help in the time of trouble. So that no matter what we're going through as a church, whether we talk about, in the house of bishops or laity or clergy, or even as individual members of this church, we have a God who is a refuge that we can run into.
It's an apt theme for a time like this in our country. When you look at the situations of this country, the precarious nature of the country, the incessant killings, you don't even know what to do, whom to trust, what to do the next time. But one thing is certain, in the midst of all this, Nigerians should know that if we can look beyond every storm, there is a quiet seashore. As far as God is alive, as far as God is seated on the throne, he's our refuge. He's our strong anchor. Times of tribulations, times of difficulties, that's in God we trust.
The theme we have in this meeting is a wonderful one. It's apt because now in our country, everybody is afraid. People are losing hope. People are terrified by the things happening in our country. There's nowhere to run to, nobody to trust, no institution to hold on to. But thank God that there is God who is our refuge and our strength. So when there is nowhere to go, there is somewhere to go. And where to go is our God.
It's as if the writer of the psalm was in Nigeria today, and even in contextualizing it with everything that's happening all over the world. We discovered that the psalmist was looking at when you are hopeless, when you don't know what to do, the only place to run to should be God. And that was why the Bible says that the God is our strong tower, which we will run to and will be safe. Our salvation is not in anything. It's not in the gun we see. It's not in the government. But by the grace of God, it's in God, who is the creator of the universe.
Since we are helpless as human beings, particularly in a time like this, when people are set to oppress others, and it's not just human oppression, even physical, spiritual attack, and dangers here and there. But in all these things, we know that we run to God for safety, because in God we find peace. But in the world we have tribulation. And when God is with us, then we are sure we are more than conquerors.
Meanwhile, the primate of all Nigeria Anglican Communion, the Most Reverend Nicholas D. Oko, has declared a 3-day praying and fasting for the Church of Nigeria from Monday the 1st to Wednesday the 3rd of October 2018. Primate Oko made this declaration at the recently concluded Standing Committee meeting held at Minna, Niger State. According to the primate, the reason for the fasting is for the forthcoming election and over the present state of the nation. He urged every member of the communion to take the fasting serious, as he is certain that God will turn the ugly situation of the country around, give the country good leaders that will represent them well, and also turn their lives around for good. The primate of all Nigeria Anglican Communion, the Most Reverend Nicholas D. Oko, has announced the election of new bishops for the dioceses of Ika, Owerri, and Zakibiam, and the translation of the Bishop of Jeba to the Diocese of Kwara, and also the election of an Archbishop for the province of Kwara, respectively. The primate made this announcement to the House of Bishops, the House of Clergy, and the House of Laity at the recently concluded Standing Committee meeting at Minna, Niger State. According to Primate Oko, Venerable Godfrey Ekmenisi is the bishop-elect for the Diocese of Ika. Venerable Dr. Chukuma Okbara is the bishop-elect for the Diocese of Owerri. Venerable Gisriel Vande is the bishop-elect for the Diocese of Zakibiam, while the Right Reverend Sunday Adewale, the Bishop of Jeba, is to translate to the Diocese of Kwara, and the Right Reverend Israel Amo, the Bishop of New Busa, is also elected as the Archbishop of Kwara. Their consecration service has been fixed on Friday, the 16th of November 2018 at St. Bartholomew Cathedral, Kubwa, Abuja. The Presidential Committee on the recent earth turmoil in Abuja has finally come up with its report stating that the earthquake has become a potential hazard in Nigeria. The chairman of the committee and the Director General of the National Space Research and Development Agency, Professor Seidu Mohammed, made this known while presenting the report of the committee to the Minister of Science and Technology, Dr. Obunnaya Ono, in Abuja. This disclosure was contained in a statement made available to journalists at the end of the presentation by the Head Press and Public Relations Ministry of Science and Technology, Abdul Ghani Aminu. He further explained that the country was now prone to seismic hazard following a recent earthquake occurrence in Koi, Kaduna State, Taki, Oyo State, and Ibojenge in Bayelsa State, all in 2016. The latest, he added, occurred on September 7, 2018 in Mpape, Abuja. He explained further that water extraction and recharge imbalance from aquifer were causing hydrological instability along the fractures. In view of the challenges that hinder efficient forecasting, detection and monitoring of earthquakes in Nigeria, the committee recommended the procurement and installation of more seismometers and GPS sensors equipment for the enlargement and networking of the Nigerian national network of seismographic stations. Ono, in his response, said the federal government would conduct further research and monitor earthquake-prone areas in Abuja and other parts of the country so as to predict and forestall probable negative fallouts in the future. We shall now go on a short commercial break. We'll be back. Please stay with us.
Ajayi Crowther University admission has commenced. Programs on offer include undergraduate, postgraduate, part-time, HND conversion, foundation and pre-degree programs in faculties of law, humanities, education, natural sciences, social sciences, and management sciences. Faculty of Engineering offers mechanical, electrical, electronics, and computer engineering. Faculty of Environmental Studies features architecture and estate management. Our tuition is affordable and payable in 3 installments.
Visit www.acu.edu.ng for online application, screening, and admission letter. Giving our state-of-the-art facilities, well-equipped libraries, decent learning environment, and distinguished lecturers. Apply now by logging on to www.acu.edu.ng or call 0814 592-0637.
Ajayi Crowther University, raising godly intellectuals.
You are welcome back and thanks for staying tuned. For more on our top stories, please visit our website at acnntv.com or youtube.com/acnntv. To be up to date with our news and other programs, download the ACNN app for Android from Google Play Store. And now to foreign news. Liberian President George Weah has signed a long-sought land reform law that gives local communities greater rights over customary land and lets foreigners and charities own property. The Land Right Act, which was first drafted in 2014, has nonetheless been criticized by some who say it weakens the rights of Liberians who live in rural areas. Previously, the government could grant private companies long-term lease on non-titled lands that cover most of the West African country settled by former slaves from the United States and Caribbean. While addressing the people of Liberia following the signing, President Weah assured them that it was the right thing to do.
If you have land and you don't have labor, you have a problem. If you have labor, you don't have land, you have a problem. Because land is asset. To develop our country, we have to do the right thing for our people. And I think among all of the things we propose, this is the key component while we anticipate other I want to thank you. I want to thank the both houses, the Speaker, and the national partner for being there with us through this difficult tax. I think it was necessary for all the time it took, but now we realize the dividend. I hope that our people now will own their land, they will respect the rules and guidelines surrounding the land, and make sure that they bring economic dividend to a generation in this country. So today, they're going to be, I think, my second signing, which is important, and I'm glad. I can only say to God be the glory that it happened on our gavel. We are hoping to make sure that other instruments that is important for the growth of this country and our people to be signed. We will do everything the Liberian people to get the benefit of what life is all about. Thank you very much. Good to see you.
In just about 2 weeks of outbreak of the deadly disease in Zimbabwe, cholera has claimed at least 32 lives and more than 7,000 cases have been reported. The government has declared a public health emergency in the capital, Harare, the worst affected areas. In Harare, public gatherings have been banned, street vendors ordered off the streets, and people discouraged from shaking hands. The medical personnel, the Zimbabwean Health Minister, Dr. Obadiah Moyo, and other response partners explained the formidability of the disease as well as the planned response.
In our particular case, we've got a very difficult one actually, because we've isolated 3 species of germs in simple terms, in layman's terms. You know, one called Salmonella, and the other one called E. coli, and the other one which causes typhoid. You know, so, and the doctors have also identified that there is some resistance to antibiotics, except for one other particular antibiotic. We are declaring an emergency for Harare, and this will enable us to be able to contain the cholera, typhoid, and whatever else, you know, is going on. You know, we need to have that opportunity to be able to ensure that we get rid of the problem as quickly as possible.
We have already mobilized quite significant resources from, as I said, the UN in general, UNICEF and WHO in particular. We are also talking with our different partners on the ground, DFID and others, to make sure that we mobilize more resources. We have alerted our regional offices and headquarters because we know this is a very serious issue which will need, going forward, quite huge investments to contain the
Cholera outbreaks have occurred frequently in Zimbabwe's cities where supplies of safe drinking water and sanitation facilities are scarce. Residents in affected areas are living in fear and have criticized the official response to the spread of the infection that is passed on by bacteria and affects the small intestine. The government of South Africa has issued a cholera alert following an outbreak of the disease in neighboring Zimbabwe. The public announcement was made through the National Institute for Communicable Diseases, who also called on healthcare workers countrywide, especially those in Limpopo province, which borders Zimbabwe, to be on high alert for suspected cholera cases. It urged the public, especially those living in close proximity to the border with Zimbabwe, to use safe water and practice good hygiene to reduce the risk of cholera and other diarrhea diseases. The outbreak in Zimbabwe is linked to inadequate supply of safe piped water and subsequent use of unsafe water supplies, including boreholes and wells. French President Emmanuel Macron announced honors for Algerians who fought alongside French troops in Algeria's War of Independence, part of French moves to confront France's painful legacy in North America. Macron is to grant national awards to more than 20 former fighters and people who have battled for recognition of the Algerians who fought for Paris in the country's brutal 8-year Liberation War. Macron has gone further than his predecessors in addressing France's past in Algeria. He made the announcement while admitting that the French state was responsible for the torture and death of mathematician Maurice Ardin, a French communist pro-independence activist who disappeared in Algiers in 1957. The 1954 to 1962 Algerian War of Independence sparked fears of a coup in France, with more tenuous generals reluctant to relinquish the colony. The conflict left at least 400,000 people dead. Moving on to sports, Nigeria Football Federation NFF President Melvin Amaju Pinnick has been re-elected for a second term in office. He pledged to reform the federation's governance structure to make it more effective. Speaking shortly after being sworn in, Pinnick thanked President Muhammad Buhari, Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, the Chief of Staff to the President, the DG, Department of State Service, and the Inspector General of Police for their tremendous support for the board. He described all the contestants as winners, saying there is no victor, no vanquished. Pinnick promised to drive accelerated development of Nigerian football, saying the elections rekindles his belief in Nigeria.
There's no victor, there's no vanquished. Football is a winner. Aminu Megeri is my big brother. I even call him my father at times, you know. And, Taiwo Gunjobi happens to be a big brother as well. So there's no, we just need to do what we need to do. First of the things I want to do is to initiate reforms for our statute, and that's why he's going to put all his expertise to play in ensuring that we start immediately. There are some things we need to capture in the statute that will reflect reconciliation, true reconciliation, and we have to do it right away. And I'm happy it's not about me, it's about the executive committee. It's also about the Congress that believe in us. I will say today that we are not going to fail them. This is a turning point. This is a tonic. And like I said, there's no victor, there's no vanquished. Everybody's a winner. But people should now know that we need to develop football beyond the narrow confines of ethnicity, primitivism, nonchalance.
Meanwhile, Gianni Infantino, president of World Football ruling body FIFA, has sent a congratulatory message to Amaju Pinnick on his re-election as the president of the Nigerian Football Federation, NFF. So that's it on this edition of the News on the Hour. I want to thank you for watching. I am Zubechi Frank.